Explorers, experts, and, on occasion, regular people make incredible discoveries every single day. Sometimes we don't hear about some of the ones that go under the radar discovered under ordinary circumstances by ordinary people. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at 3 fascinating discoveries. The hidden plane. There are a few places you might expect to find a plane, but you would be forgiven for thinking the last place on Earth you might stumble upon one is in the middle of the thick jungles of Papua New Guinea. So, how did a World War II B-17E bomber end up in one of the most unlikely spots on the globe? Well, the story spans decades, countries, and even continents, but we can first begin in 1941, in the period when the USA entered the Second World War. The United States had remained uninvolved in the war effort between the Allies and the Axis up until this point. That was until the attack on Pearl Harbor, which drove them to join arms with the side that would ultimately win the war. While the US sent many soldiers to fight the Nazis in Europe, it was also focused on dealing with the threat of the Japanese Empire after the Pearl Harbor attack, and the US subsequently sent hundreds of thousands of men to fight in what is known as the Pacific War. While not as commonly thought of in comparison to the combat in Europe, at least 10,000 US men lost their lives in the Pacific War. During the fight in the Pacific in 1942, one specific plane, a B-17E Flying Fortress, was sent on a raiding mission to the then-occupied island of New Britain in Papua New Guinea. While the plane suffered damage from the defences of the Japanese forces, the plane did not crash from damage alone. In fact, the plane was forced to make an emergency crash landing due to the plane running totally out of fuel. The Flying Fortress was supposed to land back in Australia, but instead the B-17E nosedived directly into the Agayambo swamp on February 23, 1942. The plane's captain, Captain Fred Eaton, and the rest of the crew survived and was forced to withstand the harsh wilderness of the New Guinean jungle. For 6 weeks, the men managed to fend off starvation, the sweltering heat, as well as diseases in an unfamiliar region, and eventually managed to reunite with American troops. Despite the whereabouts of the men being resolved, the plane lays in the New Guinea jungle for decades afterwards, leaving many to wonder of its condition. Fast forward to the 1980s, and plans to retrieve the relic bomber began to move forward thanks to the efforts of pilot and collector David Talashe. It would only be in 2010 that the infamous bomber, known in plane circles as the Holy Grail, would eventually be recovered. Seen as the most uniquely preserved of the world's 4 recovered B-17E airplanes and given the nickname Swamp Ghost, is a fascinating time capsule preserved from one of the most historically significant periods in human history. Candido Amantini. Born in Italy in 1914, Candido Amantini was to become a great Catholic Passionist priest in Rome. His official title destined to be that of Reverend Father Candido of the Immaculate, a master exorcist, spiritual director, and confessor. From 1961 until he passed away in 1992, Candido Amantini was the saving grace of Rome, renowned for his exorcisms. The priest would see anywhere from 60 to 80 people in a single day, pleading for assistance. He was stationed at the Church of the Holy Staircase, and as well as being an exorcist, he additionally taught sacred scripture and moral theology, even wrote a novel about the Virgin Mary. In his childhood, Amantini was the second of 4 children, born to Giovanni Battista Amantini and Diolinda Frattini Amantini, a faithful Catholic family. The future priest was baptized exactly 8 days after his birth. At the mere age of 12, he entered the Passionist Minor Seminary in Rome in October of 1926, and by the time he was only 16, he began studies at the Passionist Novitiate on Mount Argentario, in the retreat of St. Joseph. It is here where he was gifted the name of Candido of the Immaculate, and took his temporary vows as Passionist. In 1936, after he concluded all his priestly studies, including those of philosophy and theology in Lucca, he took his eternal vows as a Passionist, transferring to the Church of the Holy Staircase, where he studied to attain a degree in theology at the Pontifical University of St. Thomas Aquinas, which he got in 1941. He passed away after a long illness on the feast of St. Candido, his patron saint since his passing. The Vatican has gifted him the title of Servant of God, and his beatification is still being investigated by the Congregation for the Causes of Saints. The priest spoke Hebrew, Greek, German, and Sanskrit alongside Italian. His exorcism studies, however, came from Father Alessandro Coletti, exorcist of the Diocese of Arezzo, who taught him and even helped him conduct his first exorcism under his guidance. St. Padre Pio of Pietrelcina said Father Candido is a priest according to God's heart. Father Candido was a man of God, always calm, always smiling, never angry even with the devil. He was on everyone's lips, well known in Rome, and has exorcised for 36 years without ever stopping. Don Amorth, who claims that Father Candido could see a photograph and immediately tell whether someone required an exorcism or medical care. The priest helped hundreds of faithful throughout his life, exorcising many people from bad spirits and demons alike. Don Amorth claims that the devil was afraid of Father Candido, who consistently cast him out of the bodies of victims. Candido allegedly had conversations with the devil during some exorcisms, where he would mock the devil with his faith and love in God. Don Amorth conducted exorcisms with Father Candido from 1986 to 1990 and became his successor. Norman the Psychopath Artificial Intelligence Gone Rogue. Since machinery is not inherently capable of original behavior and thought, artificial intelligence must be programmed to behave in its intended manner. Obviously, these systems are usually programmed to be quite affable with a cheery disposition. However, a team at the prestigious Massachusetts Institute of Technology recently created Norman, a psychopathic algorithm that was trained using images and data from the dark and ominous corners of the internet. When shown abstract ink blot images and asked what he saw, Norman always responded with bleak and often gory answers. An identical algorithm was trained with more generic images and data, and the contrast between the two systems is evident. When presented with ink blot images, the regular artificial intelligence reported seeing a close-up of a vase with flowers and a black and white photo of a small bird, while Norman answered, a man being shot and a man being pulled into a dough machine, to the same images. Ayad Rawan, who was part of the 3-person development team, believes that Norman has pointed out what this reveals about a darker aspect of machine learning, saying that data matters more than the algorithm. It highlights the idea that the data we use to train AI is reflected in the way the AI perceives the world and how it behaves. This has concerning implications for future artificial intelligence. If the same algorithm can create such vastly different outlooks in the machine, then they could also be trained, whether intentional or not, to hold biased ideologies based off of the data that they were programmed with. If the system is trained on a set of data that is flawed or inherently biased, the artificial intelligence will demonstrate these tendencies in its behavior, which could have huge ramifications for a future world in which AI plays a major role. Norman was created to demonstrate the way that the psychology of artificial intelligence reflects the naturally flawed behavior of humans, and how there is no perfect equation that will create a machine that is unlike humans. An algorithm trained off material created by humans will naturally display behavior and make decisions that is tainted with the biases and opinions of humans. Researchers and scientists studying these phenomena in the developing world of artificial intelligence are concerned for the possibilities of an intentionally created malicious AI, similar to Norman, and hope for more transparency and regulations in the development and distribution of artificial intelligence. These individuals point to Norman as an example of how the field must first analyze how to better balance the data that is used to train artificial intelligence and help to eliminate the flaws inherent in human-generated information. Norman has, as the Massachusetts Institute of Technology researchers hoped, provided an important red flag into a field that still has much room for improvement and development. But what do you make of these recent discoveries? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.